Good morning. The Building and Facilities Construction Committee meeting of Wednesday, February 18, 2026 at 10:02 will now come to order as we have a quorum. Again, I will ask each one to give their name and go around the table, their position, and so that everybody, especially the recorder, is able to make it easier for doing the minutes. I'm Shirley Mazinski, Chair.
Linda Brown, Vice Chair.
Carol Gogolinski.
John Bagalio.
Fred Fontaine.
Bob Wormy.
And our administrator.
And Community Development Director, which by now, if she doesn't know who I am,
That's all right.
I mean, I signed the P-Rex.
And John. And we have a guest in the audience. And your name?
Margaret Bacon.
Thank you. All right, the first thing on our agenda is a potential committee member, Margaret Bacon, looking to be appointed by the school committee, and looking for our recommendation. And are you here to answer questions? Or?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you can welcome up to the table for this. And so I think everybody almost knows you. But would you give the committee
Brief intro?
Yes.
Sure. So most everybody knows me regarding my business in town, regarding site development. But I have a lot of experience, and I do have my resume here that I don't know if I have enough, but I can pass around.
Oh, we all have a...
There is
Not a resume.
not.
Okay.
So I used to work for the Department of Corrections. I was the Deputy Director of Resource Management. And so for all the state prisons, and the way I look at the state prisons, they're all little cities. And so we were in charge of facility management, wastewater treatment plants, power plants, water treatment facilities, all the buildings. So it was a really good experience. And I got a lot of experience from the Department of Corrections. I worked there for about 7 or 8 years. And then I was also the utilities and facilities superintendent up in the town of Spencer for a couple of years. And I oversaw the highway department and the water treatment facility and facilities. That was a lot of good experience. And then I worked for Mass Highway for several years. I got a lot of good experience working with the highway department, especially when it comes to maintenance and things like that. So you see, I'm kind of like a jack of all trades, a master of none. That's what I kind of call it. So I have a wide breadth of experience, and I'm getting to the point in my career, I still have an active business. I keep trying to slow it down. I'm not having much success there, but eventually I would like to slow it down to a more reasonable pace. And then opportunities for me with these town committees and boards, I find very interesting. I'm already on a couple right now. The Stormwater Committee, which is winding down. The Master Plan Committee, which is starting to wind down. I'm on the ZBA. But I find being on these boards very educational. And I learn a lot, and I enjoy them. I think maybe it's because of my experience working in for municipal and state government. I kind of like the team approach and working together with other individuals for common goals. So that's when I heard that this position, there was a vacant position on buildings and facilities. I said maybe some of my expertise may be helpful to the town. So I just asked you to consider, and then I know you don't vote for this position. It's the
recommendation.
You make a recommendation, and then what's the school committee then makes a determination.
Right.
So that's pretty much me in a brief overview.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask?
Yeah, I do.
Carol?
You didn't bring up a lot about your engineering background, but I mean, I've seen that you've made plans for us for river walks and stuff like that. So would that be something you might be able to give us input on?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I have a lot of, the latest and greatest equipment nowadays is that GPS. And you can do quite a bit with the GPS field survey instruments. And then the information you can get online, you can prepare an awful lot of plans without having to spend a lot of money, to put it that way. Because I'm working for consulting firms and working for the state, I know what consultants charge, and for some simple little things that we could probably do ourselves,
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions? Some of the committees that you've been on, especially the stormwater management, believe it or not, where I live, shouldn't be a problem, but has been a problem personally. But anyhow, do you feel that that committee is really winding down and not going to be ongoing because areas in this town?
Yeah, our responsibilities were to draft the bylaws and draft the regulations, which we're just finalizing now, and I'm sure John can confirm that. And then after that's done, then the committee will probably be disbanded, I think.
Well, we can't officially adopt the regulations until the bylaws are adopted by the Attorney Generals, and since we have an edit we have to make at May town meeting, we can't wrap up the regulations until we go through another town meeting and another 90-day comment period. So I don't know if they're going to be disbanded, but we'll definitely be put on hiatus for a while.
Right. So minimal effort on
Yeah.
this committee. It's pretty much 95% complete.
Yeah, and it's going to be presented to the regulations are going to be presented to the planning board here in the next month for their blessing. And then it'll basically be done, and then we just have to go back to town meeting to make a minor correction to the bylaws and send that back into the state.
Okay, and I'm also aware, because I do have a business in town, and I do a lot of work in Douglas, very aware of the conflict of interest. And I don't know if there'd ever be a conflict of interest with this board and what I do. But I know sometimes on other committees and boards, I just have to pay attention to that.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Any questions for Margaret?
No questions. I just think I think her resume is great. I think her experience is great, and I think it'd be value added. So.
All right. Anyone else? Anyone want to make a motion to recommend?
I will make a motion to recommend that the school committee appoint Margaret Bacon to the Building Facilities Construction Committee.
I would second.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, thank you very
And
much.
hopefully, all will go well.
Why don't you stick around?
You're welcome to.
I'll just sit out in the audience.
That's right.
And see what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right. All right, on to see where our projects are going and what's been going on. So Matt and John, whoever, want to give us an update on Municipal Center furnace.
So, I know you like to go through this item by item, which is fine. But just to manage your expectations as a committee, this is budget season, so we are all hands on deck with the budget. The furnace, I think I asked you to add this to your agenda because we've been doing these intermittent repairs. We've had issues with some of the castings.
Right.
And we were hoping that not all the castings are from the same batch. So right now, no news is good news. We've been fully operational. We haven't had any breakdowns. We haven't had any alarms. So through this really cold weather, the unit has performed very well. So you're just going to keep an eye on it. The difficulty here is finding these castings if they don't, if they crack. We've been chasing, we got one out of New Hampshire that Adam Verno drove up and loaded onto a truck. I don't think the last one was a little bit difficult too. And we've had to fight back and forth for warranty coverage. But so far so good this winter, and it's been a very difficult heating season. But I don't have anything to add to this one.
Okay. Any questions? You're good? Just, we'll keep that on, and maybe the next couple of, I'll probably should stay on permanently. I hope not.
I don't know, but we got to be patient enough to skip over it, like in the summer, it's not going to run, so
Sure.
we won't talk about it.
Any questions? No, you good? All right, Gleason Court, where are we?
So, to the extent that I've been able to work on buildings, this has been my focus. We've got a goal to put the RFP back out
Yeah.
this spring and try to get bids in and approved while there's still construction season left so that somebody can get a start if they want to. So I brought a version to the select board last night that was based on their instructions, and they were pleased with where we came out on those two instructions. One is the floor price. The real estate under the building is assessed at $168,500. As you know, the appraisal that was done by, top-notch appraiser was $390,000. So the way the select board wants to approach this is that no price below $168,500 will even be considered. If you're going to offer a price under $390,000, then by Chapter 30B, Section 16, you have to offer a justification. Now, that justification is provided by the town in the procurement file, but I want the contractor to say why their economics can't work with the appraised value. And that, because I can't document the reason for departing from that value without some assistance in documenting the reason. So that's how this is going to be. There's a hard floor at $168,500 and a soft floor at $390,000. The other piece that the select board wanted me to put in was a project restriction. So the project itself cannot include an addition to the building footprint outside of the existing footprint. And that is for the project. Now I'm going to add context to this in a second. So last night, the discussion with the select board was around suggestions from one of the members to add 2 additional clauses, one of which I support is a wise thing, and that's a clawback provision, so that if the project isn't done within a certain time frame, the town needs to be able to claw back the asset. Because we're not selling this to be a speculation and just sit there and bank it. They're selling it so that something will happen. So I think that's a good thing. Now, legal counsel is going to have to help me draft that, because when consideration changes hands with transfer title, what is the legal actuator for that clawback? And would we have to escrow the money? We probably would have to escrow the money. So it wouldn't close to free cash. You'd have to hold it until the CO is issued, and then we could cash the check or take the money in. Which is less than ideal from a budgetary standpoint, but if it makes the transaction work and it gets the project done, that's fine. The second suggestion that I have a little bit more reservations about is selling the property with a deed restriction, that the no addition piece of the project description is now a permanent legally binding piece of the deed. And the reason offered is traffic. That if we have too many units on that property, then we'll have too much of a traffic problem. Making an assumption that condos or large apartments will generate, 1 or 2 cars per unit, and then there's a certain agency out there that calculates the number of road trips, associated with that level of occupancy. So if you had, let's say you had 10 units in the building and each one had 2 cars, 20 cars, about 2 trips a day, it's 40 trips. I'm not impressed by this statistic. I just don't know that that should be a reason. We've got the post office, the senior center, and all the schools. So Gleason Court is already handling hundreds of car trips a day. So I've asked John to interact with CMRPC to get a traffic count at the corner of Gleason and Main, and then another in front of the building, so we eliminate the adult social center, the post office. I don't think you get much for the Chinese restaurant, but let's say we do.
That's all on Main Street.
Residents. Yeah, that's all parked in the middle of Rain, usually with a Ford 350, the door open. So that, to some extent, I have to say, this is why towns don't like to be in the real estate business. I think I've done more due diligence on this bleeping building that the problem I have is that the Village Business District, which is where this building is located in our zoning maps, is by far the most permissive and liberal district we have. Douglas doesn't have a lot coverage maximal in any district. A special permit is required for multifamily housing. That's part of our zoning code. And that special permit would come from the planning board. And then there'll also be site plan review, it's commercial. And I think you get to the point where if you're too restrictive, you're going to turn away interested parties. Personally, I'm not going to argue with a general contractor who makes it a living, but I've been on boards where we've taken historic buildings and the best solution was always to put the elevator shaft outside and to build a new structure and work with your existing wall and not try to build a shaft inside the building. So
This is where I was going to go, is there some, you're going to hamstring the guy between accessibility, right, 521 CMR, and if you limit him to inside the footprint, the cost of adding that accessibility will either be limited to like 1 floor, which you might not be able to do for residential, and then, or like you said, putting the shaft inside the building. I can give you hundreds of examples of stuff we've done on buildings that are 100 years old, where we've integrated a lift into the front of the building, side of the building, back of the building, and it might be a 12 by 12 square to make that happen, or maybe even 15 by 15, depending on what you're doing, and you can make it look like the building and whatnot. So essentially, if you have that square footage restriction, he now has to figure out how to get that accessibility done inside, work while it's inside and all that, and it might not make it appetizing, and he's going to lose apartment space to make that accessibility happen too. If that's what the intent of the building is to be, right?
Yeah, and so that's kind of where my head is at. I was on the board of the Stadium Theater in Woonsocket for 12 years, I guess, 10 years, however long, 3 terms. And this was a major decision, was to put an elevator out the back of the theater that came up almost to the hallway at the top of the Black Box Theater behind the marquee. And it wasn't even that expensive. The nice thing about it was, we had an architect on the board who did the work. A lot of your cabling and other electrical facilities to make the elevator work could now be done on new construction outside and wasn't interfering with the inside of the building, which was a tangled mess of historic building. So that I really don't want to go this route. And if you're going to put that elevator shaft outside, why wouldn't you make that a second wing of the building now at that point? And maybe add 2 units or 4. Because now you go through the economics in your head. If, let's say, there are apartments, and the going rate in Douglas for an apartment that size is getting pretty pricey. Mm-hmm. So let's say they're nice and it's an old historic building, so you get a premium $2,000 a month with 10 units. You add up the math real quick to about $2.4 million would be your top line budget for a 10-year payback, right? So you're not going to spend past 2.4. If you want to spend 0.4 on the property, that gives you a budget of $2 million on that building. I don't know. Like,
It doesn't go far these days.
it doesn't go that far, so I'm not feeling like I'm not getting a warm and fuzzy on whether any serious business person would do that. Because remember, your alternative, if you have that kind of liquid cash, your alternative is to put it in the in a mutual fund, if your mutual fund's tied to the Dow, you're making 4.4% a year, you're going to tie that up in a building. You're just not going to do that. It doesn't make any sense economically. So the numbers have to work, so I'm a little bit concerned about permanently restricting it. Like, if you say, I want the original project to be this building, and then any future additions would have to pass muster through the special permit process with the planning board, I'd like to be able to trust the planning board to use their judgment to not overcrowd the building. They can require a traffic study. In fact, traffic is a primary consideration in the checklist to get a special permit from the planning board. I'd rather leave it to that than have it in a deed restriction. That's just, I've had 2 days to think about it. Communication's spotty with the selectmen that suggested this, so I'll eventually catch up to it. Because they're out on leave, it's got nothing to do with our relationship. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I've got legal counsel this morning, after last night's meeting, working on drafting the language so that they can at least look at the words and see where they want to go with it. So that's your update on 11 Gleason Court. Really getting sensitive to the clock ticking on the building, because we're getting to the end of the useful life or the rated life of the roof, and I would like to be able to sell it with some of that useful life left, so it's not commanding that negative attention. It's a 20-year roof and it's 25 years later, so that's where I'm at. Are there any questions on 11 Gleason? I feel like I'm like the real estate agent from hell on this building.
I hear you.
Carol had a question.
Oh, well, kind of, not exactly a question, but, one of the things is, I don't know if we can just, any additions should be in the back of the building, because the front facade is so pretty. That's what we're trying
kind
to
of where my head is at. And
Right.
that's where the way we had drafted it.
Right.
In fact, I tightened up that language. So I added the
Right.
definition because the building sits sideways to the
Right,
street.
yep,
So I had to add the definition of front
yeah, yeah, it's really...
is the front door.
Yeah, right,
I guess a
right.
firefighter would call that the ABCD
Right.
side of the building is facing Gleason Court, and the rear is actually facing uphill into the woods. And on that basis of that definition, we don't want anything in the front.
Right, right.
And so I made that language really explicit, because one of the proposals that came back was going to put basically a Nikita Khrushchev apartment building.
Right, yeah.
If you've ever traveled in Eastern Europe and seen
Right.
these things.
And
No thanks.
I'd like to say one more thing.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest obstacle we're going to run into now is going to be the fact that and I believe it's going to go through that rent control, nobody is going to be developing anything when that rent control comes through.
Yeah,
You're not going to see,
even before we
our
get there,
governor
Carol.
has agreed to that.
Yeah, even before we get there.
Yeah.
This building needs to be sprinklered if you're going to put this many units in it.
Yeah, right?
So we'll dig up the road, we're going to do a fire service connection.
Yeah.
Right? We'll have to do that when the kids are
Yeah.
out of school, because you can't close
Yeah,
these.
yeah,
And that alone is going to be a pretty significant expense.
Yeah.
So where the thought process would be to put the elevator indoors is actually where you need to put your risers for your sprinklers that contain space. And that's where the plumbing is. There was a bathroom, and then there was a principal's break room on top of each other, and that's where you're going to want to run your risers and have your valves and your alarms. So I think we got a little ways to go, but getting back to the basic point, think out of the box for a second and say, why wouldn't we just make that the Douglas Housing Authority's first project, right? And the reason is because it doesn't make any sense. No offense to the folks in Boston, but if you make it so expensive to build a house, you can't possibly turn around and say you're going to sell it as an affordable unit.
Correct.
We're past nutty at this point, and I can tell you I'm fit to be tied. I am tired of talking to children. Every time I call Boston, that's what I get. I get a 20-year-old with no life experience telling me that digging a hole to the center of the earth is the best way to deal with a building, and it's like, no, it's not. So I'm not going to get all political, but it is becoming a problem, because we all share the goal
All right,
My kid's 23, he can't afford $2,000 a month for an
all right.
apartment. What kind of job is he going to get with his level of experience to support that level of housing? So I know that he can't do it. So why are we doing this?
Fred?
So the clawback will make the project slightly less desirable to somebody bidding on it. Not a huge problem, but the deed restriction seems like it would be a huge thing
I'm
as far
spinning
as...
it that way. I mean, to fairly represent the other point of view, the deed restriction is so that you're not specifying a project, and then the day after the project's done, they just go ahead and do what they want anyway. Right, I see that point, but,
And I trust future boards.
yeah.
Do you need, what do you want from this committee for support for that?
Really, just because your positions as opinion leaders in the community is sufficient. Like, you can reach out to your select board members and share your thoughts, or you can send a copy of your minutes if you want to take a position on it. I want to hurry up, but at the same time, there is no hurry. Like, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right, we just got to do it right.
I hope.
Right, so it'll go faster if we do it right, than if we try too hard.
It's too long. We've had this. I mean, years ago, Rich Preston and I, we were selectmen at the same time, but either before or after, we held an open house and asked for people's, thoughts and recommendations on this. And
So I'll just
It's
tell this committee,
difficult.
the other thing I'm
Yeah.
going to do as soon as we get rid of the 2 feet of snow is I'm tired of showing this building in its current state. So I want all the junk trees and everything out. I want everything that's inside the building that isn't structurally attached to the building removed. And we're not going to paint anything or do anything too fancy, but in my ideal world, I'd show this building with a couple of the boards removed from the windows, so you could actually see how the light passes through this building. I know that all the people who go through it are really good architects, and they know what they're looking at, but you can't change the fact that emotion is part of being a human being, and when you feel the warmth of that space, it's just going to be hard to get that out of your head. At least that's when I look at real estate, that's what happens to me. Start to ignore the numbers and start to think about, oh, that's a really pretty spot. But
So one last question. If we redo the RFP in April and there's no interest or no bidders or no one wants to do it, does the town have an interest to say, we're going to sell it at that point? Like, you're just going to sell it? Or we're going to hang on to something we've tried to bid it twice now? Are we going to go back a third time and change what we're trying to do with it? Or is it just get rid of the building and sell the land?
yeah, I think you'd feel, I don't know what I'd ever recommend getting rid of the building.
Okay.
I couldn't live with myself, because I think it's one of the nicer things in the town.
Sure.
Its history. We'd have to do a really deep soul search, though, on what it is that we're trying to do.
Well, and that's...
Short of winning the lottery.
Well, because where are we coming up with the money to do what you want to do or make the building something that it needs to be, right? So then it becomes...
We'd be subject to the same dynamics, only worse, because we'd have prevailing wage, because it would be
Right.
town property, right? So I love the idea of it being a police station. I like the idea of police having a bigger, more spacious building so close to the schools. It really, the trouble is getting in and out of Gleason Court when you have a call.
Right.
Right now, you're stuck behind a wall of traffic on Main Street. So practically, it doesn't make sense. So we'll kind of have to scratch that off. If it becomes a community space, why wouldn't we just do that over near the Common? It's just so much more accessible. So there's a limit to what we can do here. This is going to be housing, and we'll have to figure out, if we can't sell it this time around, what's the drop dead going to look like on the price?
Sure.
so has there been any interest in, like, medical offices, doctor's offices?
So you're hitting my raw nerve, because I think that would be the highest and best use of the building, right? That's a targeted sell. So one of the bidders last time is rather famously involved with building out the infrastructure around Milford Hospital, including the hospital itself and some of the
Yeah.
ancillary medical practice buildings. And I know that our best successes in Woonsocket back in the day, when the old Marquette Credit Union building was getting, because it was a Class A office building, you could get hospital wire and all kinds of other things into the spaces. And there's a guy in there who does non-invasive arterial surgery, removes varicose veins and deals with blockages on people. And it's a wildly successful practice, and it was finally got some life into what was otherwise a dead building. That would be great here, because you do have a blank slate. You can wire what you need to wire and cover things up and kind of start blank. It's just, I think it's this. And so that particular investor was like, I wouldn't really see that as, you're pretty far away from all the hospitals. Would you have the traffic to legitimize the expense of building out the building? That's your trouble with that being a medical office, is that, on that end. And as far as primary care physicians with a group practice, first of all, they like to be near a hospital, because if they're going to go do rounds and do all the rest of it, they want to be within reasonable distance. And secondly, it's the same issue, right? There's a big expense to fit it out, and then would you have enough interest or use of it? So,
And unfortunately, primary care
they're all owned by
is needed, but it's not going that route, and it needs to. Because people that I know have difficulty and need someone to get them to a certain situation, and it's Worcester, or it's Milford.
If I could talk to you about healthcare all day. That's not what people want to listen to. So I'm done with Levin Gleason.
I'd like to make a motion.
Hold 1 minute. I have one, some of you are on master plan. So what is master plan, if you don't mind, my thoughts on that area? What are they, do they have any input, or you've had any discussions about what that area is?
That particular building.
Well, and not just the building, but in that area. Any thoughts on what's...
I don't think it was narrowed down to that area.
Too much. Do you
No,
remember
we've
anything,
talked-
Margaret?
We've talked about the need to improve downtown.
Yeah.
And improve sidewalks.
And parking
pedestrian and
behind.
parking behind the
Yeah.
building. So it's been talked about in the area in
okay.
general.
Yep.
And the need to improve those types of facilities and those types of things. So,
Okay.
that's where the discussion, I think, is mainly focused on.
Yep, okay.
Can I make a motion? I would like to make a motion that the Building and Facilities recommends that the RFP includes the ability to be able to add on to the back of the building. Because I think that's the only way we're going to sell this thing. And that would be...
The back of the building
Back of
being
the
the wooded entrance.
Right, the
side.
wooded entrance. Maybe we should use north, south, east, west, but whatever.
Yeah, that's the south side.
Okay, the south, be able to add onto the south side, preserving the beauty of the front or the entrance. I would make that, I don't know if anybody else would agree, that we should recommend that to the select board.
At a minimum, recommend not having a deed restriction for the property line, for the building footprint as it is. And if you wanted to go that much further and say you can't affect either facade, west or north, right? I think that's fine. I would agree with that.
Fred?
Might it make more sense just to see how it goes this time around? As it is now?
My fear with that is that, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who's going to invest in a building like this. And I would say, I'm going to get this thing, I have to make it, if there's a deed restriction, I have to make it work within its confines. So I got this big ticket item, this big ticket item, and so now if I can't do anything else with it, I'm either going to skimp and not make it as nice a place as I would have hoped, or I'm just not going to bid it all because I'm too constrained. and I don't know what my prices are going to look like in a year. Right, so the town's not being respectful of my risk profile as somebody doing a building rehab. And the big bugaboo for folks who do these kind of, and this I do know from a lot of work that I did in Woonsocket as economic development director there, is you pull a wall down, it's like, holy cow, latent condition, right? So we know the asbestos is gone, the lead paint and all the rest of it, we're all set with that. But it's like, who plumbed this? Right? And what is this stuff? And why is it going this way? So that's what, now I think that fear is irrational in this building because I think it's pretty much a
Solid.
very minimalist approach to utilities. It was a school, and they just had one main latrine, very little lighting. So it's really a blank slate, but at the same time, I know how an investor thinks. I'm going to get into, probably this issue will be more about the masonry. You know, when I really start to look at what needs to be repointed and the materials I have to use in the windows. Like, am I going to be able to get the size and shape of windows? So somebody would have to do a really detailed estimate. So I just think that's kind of every time you put up another brick in the wall, it becomes a bigger obstacle to get bids in.
Goes back to my original point that people are more likely to bid higher if there's less restrictions. So I tend to agree with Carol's motion.
So you
Somebody would
second.
have to second it.
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Okay. Hopefully, we'll have better results and move on. I think there was a lot of sentiment, as you said, about not changing the appearance of the building. Anyhow, hopefully all will work well. Highway building project.
So that was your long topic, B.
Yeah,
I'm going to whisk through some of these because
sure.
highway building, we're still talking to the architect about what we want him to produce for town meeting.
And,
And that's all I got.
Say
okay.
that again? He's going to produce for town meeting? Is that, all right.
Are we going to the town meeting for
Yeah, well, if
the
we're not
funding on
happy with
this?
what we get, then we're not going to, like, so I want enough detail where a voter can make a reasonable choice about whether they want to go forward or not. Because what I feel the tension around a different aspect of the project, and that's what am I asking for a bond, right? Because we're looking at the capacity of the town to borrow, which at this point is pretty wide open, because you've had so many big notes roll off in the last 8 years. And then you had a bigger note that the finance director consolidated my first year here. So you've really changed your profile as a municipality in terms of your debt profile. It's way down. At the same time, I want to make sure this architecture firm is fully compliant with their instructions. We are value costing out this project. We're not interested in what Dover would build, or Concord, or Lexington, and what price they would absorb, because we're not that community. We're looking at this point, if you put the functional pieces of this in the building we already have, and what we're looking for is basically a storage building, then it should command a storage building price. And so I won't ask for a whole heck of a lot. I don't want to throw numbers around because I want to be realistic. I want them to do their work and give me an estimate, because they're working in the field and I am not. If I thought the number was something that was reasonable to absorb, I'd go to this town meeting coming up in May and say, I need a bond for X, right? If I don't like the number, I'm going to say, I don't want to do this now, and either do it in the fall or the following spring, because we've got to get to X. We're going to keep driving towards X. Here's what's given me pause, Madam Chair, through you to Carol. The private sector is speaking very loudly with a number of choices they're making of what not to do.
What do you mean?
So a lot of the big projects in the Blackstone Valley are not moving. Why? Right? So how does that affect us? So we're not a for-profit business. I'm not building a packaging facility in Sutton, right? So I'm not Bob Kraft, I don't know if you've noticed. Maybe my attire would be your first tip. But if Mr. Kraft and the Kraft family are not spending money to move Unified Phase 2 forward, and I'm watching CRG do whatever gymnastics they're doing around the Pine Sand and Gravel site, why am I in a big rush to build a building? Like, is there something about costs? Is there something about building codes? There's a question, a series of questions I want answered before I ask town meeting for any money for this building. At the same time, I'm living with the results of storing stuff outside, right? So the backhoe, the excavator, it's a backhoe. It's run out of energy, juice. It's the tech who came to service it last time was like, kind of excited, or I have a weird feeling in my belly that this thing is still running. Like, it just, we've got to be more prudent with, if everything we buy is going to cost $250,000, where a few years ago it was $180,000, I'm talking trucks, we got to be responsible and put it under a roof. But it doesn't need anything more than that. It doesn't need a massage, it doesn't need fancy lighting, it just needs to be parked inside after it's been washed.
Are we going to need heat?
What's that?
Are we going to need any heat in that building?
Not heat to move the temperature 70 degrees.
Right.
What's the prudent temperature to store the stuff? 40 degrees?
Right.
38? That's all I'm...
How big is it? Or how big was the plan for it?
So the original thought now, oh gosh, I want to say a number and Carol's going to kill me. Because I think originally we were looking at 30,000 square feet.
So
I think we might be looking at something.
So there's code thing you're talking about, it's going to be a S2, the use group, if you're storing vehicles that store fuel. I want to say it's over 12,000 square feet, it's going to have to be sprinkled.
Yeah.
And then if you sprinkle it, you have to heat it so it doesn't freeze, or you have to run a glycol system, or that's where all your cost is. Because the building itself is probably somewhere around $400 a square foot for Butler style, and then now you're going to add all that. And that's what's going to kill you, is it has to be sprinkled, and because it's sprinkled, it has to be thermally protected, either dry or whatever, and that's where the cost is going to come in. So, yes.
At the same time, I realize this is an expensive project for the town, but there is a point at which, I don't want to be crass, but we have to recognize what things cost.
Absolutely.
And they're not cheap anymore. And you can't in one breath say, I'm excited for Douglas because the average cost of a house that is sold, and if you saw the BBT article in the past 2 weeks, isn't $400,000 anymore, it's $600,000. Well, why is that? Some of it is demand to living in Douglas. Some of it is the cost of building stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's been so long since the town built anything, other than a school building. It's almost like you take the school stuff and you write it off, because it's so cuckoo crazy what they spend on buildings. The municipality hasn't built a building in 100 years. Right? When's the last time? This is probably the newest building we have. The main structure was built over 100 years ago, and the addition was built 75 years ago. So the taxpayer hasn't seen this kind of cost put in front of them. So, but you got to spend what you have to spend to build a code-compliant building that's going to last as long as the building that they're in, which is almost 100 years old.
Well, the fire station, that was the last.
The fire station, you're right. The fire station is the last one.
And this is
You know what? I don't even count that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you why. It's a bunch of cinder blocks in a rectangle.
Exactly.
But that's what you want to do now.
Pretty much.
No, I don't want cinder blocks at all. I want steel buildings.
Yes, yeah.
You know, that's
with a-
why I think we still should look at something that's already up, but nobody seems to want to do that.
I think that's your last choice, but it's still...
I would say it's the first choice because we could save millions.
But if it's not, again, so if the use group, what you're doing in it incorporates the fact that now we're storing vehicles like that, and it makes it an S2 use group that has to be sprinkled because of its square footage, and it's not sprinkled, you're spending that cost to retrofit that safety into an old building, which is harder to do than doing it new. So that's where you get into this weird,
we
and,
don't-
and that's what a feasibility study from Weston should be telling you, right? Like, this is what this is going to be. If you have other alternative spaces, this is why it is or isn't, or what those costs come into, right? Like, that's the homework.
We did do the feasibility.
Yeah.
studies. That's where we ended up.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, this was a school.
So we'll get to this building in a second, but I don't want to rush your meeting.
No, go
I'm done
ahead.
with highway building.
Anybody, any more questions? Okay. All right, and oil spill, I
No change.
think it's all set,
Yeah.
and we
We
should have
filed for
filed
closure,
it.
I'm just waiting.
Yeah, so we can take this off?
Yes.
Or, yeah, no,
Yeah.
okay.
Do we have to motion to that? Remove it from the agenda?
Your chair can just take it off.
Yeah. Well, if the board agrees, we'll take it off. It's taken care of. We'll hear about it if it's not. Green
I can update you on the final closure.
Green Communities update?
We just submitted the year-end report from last year for the middle school lighting project last week.
Yep.
That was the deadline, so that got submitted. And we're starting to hold meetings now with Charlotte at CMRPC. She's going to be helping out with this round and coordinating with Adam and with Robert Sullivan and just seeing what we need this year, what we're going to apply for this year. So we're going through that process right now to determine what we're going to apply for this year. It'll probably be some lighting, but also there are some pump stations that need some equipment, some motors and things like that. So that's where Adam and Bob come in. So they'll help with the process.
Questions, anybody? All right.
Could we, for next meeting, not now, I think this committee should get a report, and the selectmen too, on the total grant funds received from the Green Communities Program since the town joined. And that,
That would be good.
we got our first grant, our, whatever they call that, the seed money,
Yeah.
was my first year here. So that would have been 2017.
Yep.
And we spent it on streetlights. Remember, we converted all the
Yes.
streetlights.
Yeah. We
saved
had a big
boatload of money
copy of the
since then.
check and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like, whatever that was, 400,000, a big initial grant. And then they've been smaller since.
Right.
But I'm willing to bet we're close to $2 million. I just think it's time, the community voted a bunch of things and checked all the boxes to become a green community. And I think sometimes we lose sight of just how much money that's brought the town, just in terms of capital. But then the operational savings, in terms of the energy we've saved, it's a lot of money.
Here's where I'm not sure about that number because going into this grant cycle, we had to have, once you exceed a certain threshold of spending, I think it's like $1 million or something. Oh, I think it's like $1 million. It makes you eligible for less money the next year. So I remember checking with Gene as far as how much was spent, and I think we were not close to $1 million. I want to say we've received probably $500,000 to $600,000 total.
Does that include the initial seed money?
That's a good question. So I know checking on that we were not close to that $1 million threshold. So that's good news because it makes us eligible for more grant money this year. Because once you meet that threshold, they lower your maximum grant.
I'm just adding up. We did heat pumps at the library, we did heat pumps in the police station, we've done all the lighting. We've done a lot. Now, maybe I'm overestimating in my mind how much all that costs, but
I'll check with Gene.
the heat pumps were not cheap because there was a lot involved, especially downstairs.
Okay.
$1 million, though, it's $1 million the taxpayer didn't spend.
Yeah.
We're saving,
Yeah.
That's
saving
right.
an awful lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Any
And
questions, anyone?
Just one more comment,
Sure.
if I could. So, and one of the bonuses was last year, the post office was supposed to be part of it, but the post office went and did their lights on their own. So we had lights left over, so we were able to take those and use those at the library.
Right.
So again, we're just
Yep.
making the most of what we have and taking
Right.
advantage of everything.
Good. Yep. All right. Municipal fire alarm update.
So as you know, we're going to tie all this together into a different kind of project that involves marrying the fire alarm to a new sprinkler system I wanted to use this agenda item as a jumping off point for a more current conversation. I almost think that you should alter this agenda item to say municipal center upgrades so that we can cover the fire alarm as well as any other discussion. So in a recent conversation with the Capital Committee chairman, we're going over what's going on here in the building. Just remember that we have the archive project in the old locker room next to the gym. We have this ongoing issue with the fire alarm. And we're getting to the point now where some of the cosmetic, you would consider them cosmetic issues around the rugs, and some are starting to actually become safety issues. So we have a giant tear in the rug in front of the assistant treasurer's office. That's where our employees come and go for benefit conversations with the assistant treasurer, who's the payroll benefit manager for us. And the rug in the selectman's office is completely tattered, so we cover it with the conference table. And I make sure I sit in the chair that's over the rip so that we don't have members of the select.
Not the area rug over the other rug?
So good news and bad news, depending on your aesthetic. The floor in this room is a hardwood floor here in the resource center, the resource room, which would brighten up and make this a far more dignified space than this, I don't even know what you want to call this, purple thing. The floor in the selectman's office is a hardwood floor. The floor in the hallways is that old quartz, I don't even know what you call it, stuff that they used to put in schools. But if you go up to the second floor, it's the exact same material as the second floor.
It's not wood?
No.
Oh.
No. So it's like it's an epoxy with quartz, and it's all been nicely. And you would use the old-fashioned wax to brighten that up. But the point is, it's white,
Right.
with a gray border around the thresholds into the classrooms. And all the classrooms in this building were hardwoods. So Jean's area, Cheryl's area, the tax assessors, those are all hardwoods underneath. So there's a lot of potential to really make this, actually to restore the building to its original glory after this 1970s or whatever, this was done 1990s. Probably very practical at the time, it's not anymore. But the bigger concern, the bigger issue with the municipal center isn't the cosmetic piece. So as much as I'd like to see it change and make it an easier space to occupy, we need to make sure that the basic utilities in the building are up to snuff to support the actual. The fire alarm is by far the most important priority. So to the extent that the draft capital plan included some upgrade to the municipal center, I've asked that we not do that we took all that money into a design effort for the sprinkler and fire alarm and get that entire system set up. We went through the expense using mostly ARPA money, but also some water money and some free cash to bring a new fire service into the building separate from the domestic. And now that we have that in place, we need to move the sprinkler system over to it, our existing sprinkler system, and sprinkle the second floor so that we can actually use the space. That's just a priority. The other priority is to get all of this massive loading off the second floor. So file cabinets jammed with paper. Now the nice news is our senior work-off people are doing an amazing job of reducing things. We have a lot of things in triplicate. They're being reduced to one master copy. But the next project is to scan it all. So you're going to save the hard copies, you definitely are, but then you're going to have an electronic copy that resides in an electronic archive, so you've got that backup in the second medium. And that's going to cost you, $300,000, but you don't have to do it all at once. You could spread it over 3 or 4 years and just do one piece at a time. But we really are at the point where we have just way too much stuff on the second floor, and we can't even move around. We emptied out this room that's directly above this space. That was where a former selectman thought he was going to have a studio up there at the top of the stairway. It's not, we're directly above this space, it's above the
Wasn't that for the cable?
cable.
Yeah.
And it was an IT storage room for years, and it was getting pretty creepy. So we had the IT recycle people come, and they're whiz-bang, they take everything, all that for a little shard of whatever, praseodymium or whatever they need in there. And so it's all cleaned up, pretty much wall-to-wall clean, thanks to our enterprising IT guy. But we have all the other rooms up there pretty much wall-to-wall paper, with the exception of the old business office over near the gym that was modernized and made sort of a space for the administration for whatever that was. It was pre-K and K that they had up there, so whatever they had for
Yeah.
a building principal or building administration. I stored all of our COVID supplies were in there. Those are almost all gone, so we got a couple empty rooms, but for the most part, it's just a jam. It's way too much weight. It needs to come out. So that's where we are with overall fire safety in the municipal center and what our plan is next. So as much as I'd like to make the rugs nice, I don't see that happening for a long time. 'Cause
Any
the
comments?
biggest issue with
Yeah.
this building, and I'll just remind this members of this committee, as expensive as the highway barn might be, the next thing, the second place finisher is going to be the electrical upgrade of the municipal center, because you would be frightened to see what we have in the basement for electric. Second floor is actually your best floor, because when the schools moved up there, they upgraded all the electrical service to the second floor, but not the first. So you've got the old Westinghouse breakers from 1927 are what keeps this building going. And that's probably because they don't trip.
That's not good.
That's not good.
Questions?
So do you think we should change it from municipal fire alarm to municipal center upgrades?
And we'll talk about the whole thing. I'm good with
Everybody
that.
agree? Yeah,
That's fine. Concur.
all right. Fire station upgrade?
So we're getting close to pay dirt here.
Yeah.
Weston Sampson's getting ready with a bid package. Blackstone Valley Tech has agreed to do the minor carpentry work. So that's nice, it saves us a little bit. The key is it gets us out of the box we were in where we had to have a general contractor overseeing the project. So once all the GC work is done, Weston Sampson feels like the best approach here is to have the project as an HVAC project with an electrical sub. That's just the approach they're going to take on the bid package. So,
Filed sub-bid, do you think, for that?
yeah.
Sure.
Good?
But I'm looking for, hopefully, God, I hate to give myself deadlines, but I probably should. But the next time you meet, we should have a bid package.
Okay.
And it will be this giant, thick, technical thing that you don't want to read, trust me.
Read them all the
You
time.
might want to
read them all the time. They're fun. Great.
Okay.
It is a rectangle made out of cinder blocks, and we're only going to go so far.
Library Board trustees, no update. They're still trying to raise money. Do they have a plan? Okay.
Skipping it.
All right. We'll keep them on, though, because they're out there. Vacant buildings in town, Cottage Street, that was tightened up, I believe.
Yeah, that we agree.
Last notes we talked about was buttoned up.
Yeah, and I did go by there, and it looked pretty good. Main Street Center School, Fred, I think you had
It's some homework. I was just going to look up how much
yeah,
cameras would be. They're about $30 for two of them.
30.
And it's solar, so So they only, it would be $30 plus whatever it costs to have somebody install them, which is just 2 screws. That's all.
But how do you monitor them?
Yeah.
You don't. They're just the
So
illusion
then-
of security.
Why would you want them? Just to
Just so-
scare people away?
Exactly.
Okay.
People who don't watch meetings
Right.
on cable. They're the ones stealing the old booze out of the basement anyway.
Yeah, I know, they're watching
I don't think
us.
they're leaving this on loop.
Because it was broken into again, you said. And-
I'll have highway do it because it'll be a prevailing wage job because you're affixing something to the building.
Yeah.
So we'll have highway do that.
So you're
Well, yeah.
interested, or,
Duly noted.
okay,
I'll ask Adam.
all right,
It'd be difficult in the snow, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, demolition of vacant buildings?
So I'm on hold here, not because of money, but because of the snow.
Yeah,
So we're not going to spend the time and energy to plow over to 104. So on the Brown Building,
You get credit.
I'm just working on it. I have to put that out, so I have to work on the RFP.
in Buckeye,
That's Buckeye, 104. I got to get the environmental consultant into the building and plow over there so we can get
yeah,
reasonably close to it,
Yeah.
unless we want to hike through 2 feet of snow.
nope,
Spring's coming.
nope,
Pat's kind of short, you know?
yeah.
Snow's
Okay.
waste.
Any further questions, comments? Anybody?
On the agenda, no. I have new business, though.
We could do the minute.
We can do the minutes, and then we'll get to your new business, okay? Have you had an opportunity, everybody, to read the minutes?
Yes.
I didn't see anything wrong with them.
Nope.
Nice big print. I like that. Ready to vote, or?
Do you have anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the January 21st, 2026 meeting minutes as presented.
I will second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay. So before we move on to adjourn, and upcoming meetings is March 18th and April 15th. John, you have something that came
Yeah,
up?
so last meeting I left, I'm the new guy. I'm the next newest person on the committee, by the way. This is my second meeting, I think, right?
Yes.
So I went back and I was able to get the bylaws and read the charge of, because I asked, what's the charge of this committee? And I would ask that at the next meeting, we provide some time for the chair and everybody to review what the charge is. I think there are things here that we can help you out a lot with, that we are allowed to do in terms of RFP development, RFP input, reviewing payments, reviewing plans, coordination with designers, project managers, all that. That's all part of the committee's ability. So instead of it, we can talk to the Board of Selectmen, we can take things from this committee to the Board of Selectmen, to the Planning Board, to Master Planning. That's kind of what we're charged with for projects over $50,000 is the general gist. I think the whole group reviewing that, and then maybe some, and one of them is developing what I'll call a capital improvement strategy or a priority list for the manager and for those boards to use. So we can now say, well, our biggest priority is fire safety egress at the municipal center, which now goes ahead of the highway building. And that becomes something that's a document that we can work from and show to people. I think that we can exercise a little bit of work in this to review that, maybe some taskings, or maybe I'm way off, right? It's up to you, Madam Chair. That will help facilitate Mr. Wojcik's job and the job of other folks here and help move some of these things along. When we provide information through one person and back, I think that choke point slows things down a bit. And it's and he is the one contract administrator for the town. So any work that we can help him with to build those contract documents or approve those documents makes his life easier. So I think it's just a relook at what we're charged to do, and maybe there's some help here that we can all help him out with. And that's all.
Any
And
comments?
maybe I'm way off on what I read, but that's what I'm saying. Maybe we all review it together.
Any comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. I'm really interested in what he has to say, and I wonder if we could set up a separate meeting, like some type of a workshop, so that he could expand more on this and have some time to do it between now and our next meeting.
Sure.
If he would be willing to do that, I'd like to be educated
If everybody could be emailed from Jen, a copy of our
Yeah,
current
and then we could sit
bylaw.
and talk where we could ask you. Obviously, he's a man who knows a lot.
Comments, anyone? Anyone?
So I want to be very blunt with the idea of trying to be helpful. This committee was formed quite a long time ago, almost like an oversight and to make sure that processes were being followed.
Well, that's what I want to talk about. I
And
want to understand.
I honestly think that that is completely worthless,
Okay.
except for the public education. So the benefit of having a meeting and putting all this out is transparency. But I either need to be leveraged out of a lot of these things, which I prefer. So I prefer what your path.
Sure.
Or the committee needs to go away. And I'll tell you why, because I'm the chief procurement officer. I report to the select board. The select board's responsible for the buildings. So if the committee doesn't live up to its charge, it needs to stop having meetings. Right? Because all we're doing is talking about stuff. There's real work that needs to be done. It could be really interesting and exciting. It can leverage me out of a lot of things. You're still going to have a lot of interaction with the town manager, but it's not going to be just reporting on how we're complying, right? As the CPO, I ultimately have to approve what is posted.
Absolutely.
I would rather read and edit than draft. I'll tell you one thing I don't do, and maybe you respect it, maybe you disagree, but I do not use other people's work. So this mass repository of purchasing officers, the MCPPOs have a
Oh, like
Website
pre-written
with
scopes and things like that?
pre-written
No,
scopes.
that's no good.
And the former school business manager was very much a fan of doing that, copying and pasting things that she liked, quote unquote. And I would get the stuff and I'd say, you copied and pasted a bunch of stuff that now contradicts itself.
Right.
And when you start from scratch, you're being thoughtful about the project that's in front of you, and your writing reflects the needs of the project. So I don't like using other people's work. There is some stock and trade boilerplate language that we put in around all of the non-collusion and all the rest of it.
All
We
the
just
front-end stuff, yeah.
throw that in there, and it's done. But in terms of the scope, what we've always needed was a staff person, a facilities manager, to inform the select board and the town manager on what needed to be done. If we can't afford that, then the next best thing we can have is a committee of people with expertise who are willing to throw themselves at the work, which I welcome wholeheartedly, because I have a really big portfolio, and I've sworn I'll never need an assistant, because I think that's a total waste. Like, you either can do this job or not. We need to work together as a team to leverage each other into, and in the case of Douglas being a small town, public buy-in into spending this money comes from this transparency. So I'd rather not see the committee go away, I'd rather see it do more of its charge. That's just where I stand on it. I've come to all these meetings as prepared as I can. And if you look back, we've done a lot of projects. I put out a lot of RFPs. We've between ARPA and money that's been raised from free cash every year, we've done a lot to really change the direction of the town. However, there's still a lot to be done. Not so much vehicles. I think just about everything with four wheels that we need, with the possible exception of the tanker at the fire station, is pretty much up to snuff now. But the buildings, even our insurance guy was here yesterday for property, and he's like, there's another town not far away from here, Smithfield, Rhode Island. He's like, my book for Douglas, I've got you insured for $14 million of value. It's almost 3 times what the town of Smithfield, Rhode Island, which is 2.5 times the population of Douglas, has for buildings. It's just that you have these old buildings scattered all over town. The town took an interest in keeping them. Well, we're trying to make use of them. It's just a lot of insured value. And at some point we'll have to have a really hard conversation, and maybe growth will take care of it, but you have 4 school buildings. You have a K through 12 school system for a town of 9,800 people. It's one of the smallest in the Commonwealth. with
Don't
this
get me
load.
started.
So it's going to get to the point where it's a really big draw. Right now, you're able to do it because you're living out the life of the assets. The primary school is the oldest building, but it's also kind of a brick rectangle, right? So it's going to last you a long time. But when we start doing roofs and HVAC, and the transformers need to be fixed because a lot of them are too old, so the electrical system is going to need to be reviewed. When you start laying out big outlays, I think the townspeople's patience will wear thin. That's why I kind of want to do the highway bond first, because that's your most pressing need. But it's the tip of the iceberg. Everything that's beneath it is the rehab of your existing stuff, and that's going to get pricey, really pricey.
And that's the battle I deal with where I'm at now. So we have 3 million square feet of stuff. We probably need 2.5 million square feet of stuff. Our average age of our buildings are 80 years, right? So but no one wants to give anything up. They're like, oh, we can't get that back. Well, you don't need it, right? Like, you're not that big, you don't need it. The Mass Guard is 6,000 people, not 10,000 anymore. And it's a real hard tribal paradigm to jump over. Like, oh, well, we never get property back. Well, no, you don't, but if you don't need it, you're paying to maintain it, keep it warm, put power to it, right, insure it, all that stuff too. So that's the battle. This is the
I was a congressional staffer when we started the BRAC process, and then I was there long enough to go through 2 or 3 rounds of BRAC. And talk about tribal. Especially in the House, every single member of the House had some military installation in their district. They didn't want to part with it. And my boss's theme was always the same, because he really wanted Rhode Island to keep a lot of its plan. If you don't invest in it and keep it up to snuff, it needs to go away. So we would just pour money into the underwater warfare center in Newport, and then just let some of the military housing in Middletown and Newport go away. We're in the same place. We either need to make use of the buildings or have them go away, because it's not the insurance, that's not that expensive. It's the physical plant itself. It's in the way. And
Fred?
I have to go.
Yeah.
we got.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
John said, I want out of his chair.
I want to make a brief statement. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say, but I think that since I've been on this committee, I've actually been impressed on how well things actually work and how they move along and how they get done. And I think the taxpayers can be confident that things have been being done well, as long as I've been, and efficiently, and every dime is looked after.
We're ready for the next step.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything that's being done isn't.
Yeah, no, that's not how I took it. That's not how I took it. Just, I am interested in hearing what you have to say.
Also, we've had changes in the capital committee and people and the financial status here and business as far as Jean does an excellent job, and she works very hard at it and gives us options and routes that we should look at versus, oh, well, this needs to be done or whatever. But where does it come from? Where's the money coming from?
But when you put this in place, and I'm specifically saying you, you had a situation where there was no real oversight from the select board. You had a town administrator run off to put roofs on buildings without any authorization.
Sure.
And there was no way to bring that to light. If the select board wasn't going to hold that guy accountable for doing that, then nobody did, right? So I think this is how the genesis of this, and they had this really broad mandate. Because we're mad, and we're going to write this broad mandate. But the broad mandate, actually, at this point in the town's development, would help if it was fully backfilled with effort.
So, and again, it's a
With Margaret joining, I mean, we're just going to have more and more.
I just think it's taking the time to look at it, discuss it, and it's either this is what we can and can't do, this is how we can help, or like you said, if there are portions of this that we can't do because of some rule change, or portions that would only cause interference or delay, change the bylaw to represent that and refine what the charges of the committee, that's all.
I would really want to hear what this man has to say, though.
Yeah.
And I want to go one step beyond.
Yeah.
If we do not want to do it with a meeting, I would
do a
like
Zoom
to,
call or
I would
something if that's easier for you.
I would just like to meet with him personally. It's not a quorum, so I guess I'm allowed to do that. But I'm very
Right,
interested in what he has to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but don't shut out the rest of the committee.
I'm not shutting them out, but if they don't want to do
Next meeting
it,
to have this conversation.
True.
A really high use of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One item agenda.
Yes, but this stuff doesn't go away, and
I know.
well, we know.
I've tried to make it go away.
I know. And it,
But I think
the
that's
biggest-
where the
the
beginning
biggest-
is
Yes.
you're in the middle of budget season.
Yes.
This stuff is
And
not going to be moving
Yeah,
here
and
in
the
the
biggest-
next month.
and I understand that. I've been through budget seasons,
Yeah.
many.
It's tedious.
And
It's just
the-
tedious.
Okay,
not
next
hard, it's
meeting,
tedious.
and we can have Jen set it up. And if there's any thing of real urgency that we need to give our recommendation to, have it along with that. But we need to know what our call is, or what our status is, and the bylaw, if everybody agrees.
Yes.
All right? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second,
What does that say?
Oh, it is.
11:20?
11:17?
this is a longer meeting than we usually have.
It's all my fault.
No, it's not.
Sounds like they're going to get longer.
All right, okay, motion to adjourn at 11:17. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you very much.
Stay out of